Hi! We have already seen the most relevant aspects of this administrative management to taxation. So we will now focus on some specific elements on the profession in France. In this unit, we will see an introduction of taxation, the definition of taxes, the different types, and the difference between legal and natural person, the definition of the different types of taxes found in France, taxation according to fiscal figures and the differences between freelancers and companies, and summary of the taxes for freelancers and societies, and finally, you will have some activities. So let's now see what taxes are. According to Jones, taxes can be defined as certain payments that are mandatory for citizens in order to support the cost of government. Unlike fines or penalties, taxes are not intended to deter or punish unacceptable behavior. Besides, taxes differ from individuals' fees because the payment of a tax does not entitle the payer to a specific good or service in return. We can make the difference between two types of taxes. Depending on the base, we can have indirect taxes. Those applies to goods and services that affect indirectly individuals, such as value-added tax, or direct taxes, those levied directly on individuals or companies, for instance, income tax, corporate tax, inheritance tax, and donation tax, or wealth tax as well. When it comes to the difference between natural person and legal person, Quintana defines natural person as any individual that is innately able to exercise their rights and obligations. This means that if a natural person sets up a company, they must assume all obligations and liability with their assets. On the other hand, the author refers to legal person as to entities with legal personhood. Thus, a legal person relates to a company or entity, being considered as such all those companies that carry out an economic activity. Both types of entities have similarities, such as their responsibility for obligation and rights, but also differences, such as the liability, the initial capital invested, rights and functioning. In France, depending on the fiscal figures, the following taxes are paid: IR, which is the personal income tax, and TVA or VAT, value-added tax. Also IS and CS. IR means that all income, regardless of origin, is aggregated to give an overall net income to which a single tax scale is applied. And this scale is divided in different income bands. The VAT is an indirect tax that is levied on the final consumers, which means that consumers pay for it, not vendors. In France, translation services have a VAT fixed rate of 20%. As mentioned before, IS is another type of tax, a tax that is to be paid annually on all profits generated in France by companies and all the legal entities. Then CS is the social contributions, which is paid by both employer and employee, and by freelancers. We have to bear in mind that different taxations are different for companies and freelancers. All these taxes apply differently to the different fiscal figures. Freelance translators must be aware of the payments for VTA, IR, IS, and the social contributions, and the amount to pay will vary depending on many factors like status or other conditions. Then, companies are slightly different. Social contributions are paid by the employer, and there are no administrative steps for a translator who works in a company as opposed to a freelance translator. The income tax is also directly levied on the employee's salary based on the latest revenue information received by the French Treasury. In short, there is a clear difference between the fiscal obligations of a freelance translator and a salaried one. Social contributions are added to direct and indirect contributions, and there are different taxes for the different legal statuses. I hope you enjoyed this unit. You can complete this introduction with the materials available on the platform. See you in the next video.